Good morning. Good morning, Vega.
Good morning.
It's almost Christmas. You get all your shopping done?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. Thank you for being here. We will get started in just a couple of minutes to give folks a chance to join. But I think we have a good few folks here already. So we will just give a couple more minutes for everyone to join. Thank you so much. Thank you, Keisha. We have on our agenda today, it's really a short agenda, just two items to approve after the public comment period, one for discussion. And we don't have I actually getting quorum right now. Keisha, will you confirm? With Tracy, does that make quorum or not yet?
I only have Tracy, and Vega.
Okay, Shantae's coming in as well.
Okay, Shante.
So is that quorum or we're still waiting for more?
One more. I'm trying to get four. Let me just double check. We're at three.
How many total members on this committee?
I have seven.
Okay, and we should have, you're saying that there are three here right now?
Yes.
Okay. Is, I know, who's missing, Keisha? Is it Reverend Vaughn?
We have Angela Holmes, Reverend Vaughn, Alicia Thompson, Nick Perriante.
Okay, Nick is out.
But he don't, well, in that case, we have quorum then.
Okay, all right,
Right.
perfect. So good morning, everyone. Welcome. Sorry for the delay. I want to thank you all for being here, and also hope you all are preparing for a really nice, very quickly approaching holiday season. At this time, we will call the meeting to order at 10:05. I do want to welcome, for those of you that have not heard or met Malcolm White on our team. Malcolm joined us within the last couple of weeks. We are thrilled to bring his expertise to the lead agency, and he's going to be supporting today's meeting as well. And also the rest of the team is here: Ricky, Jeffrey, and Keisha. Colin may join. He has been running around quite a bit, taking care of things in the office this morning, so hopefully he will be joining us as well. But we have a fairly light agenda. So the first thing that I will do is ask if there are any registered public comments, or if there's anyone who would like to offer a public comment. Okay, thank you so much. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the November minutes. We did get those out yesterday, but they weren't very long, so hopefully folks had a chance to check them out. And if so, we will entertain a motion. If not, we'll give you a couple of minutes now if you'd like to read through and make sure they are reflective. I read them, they appeared fine. So I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the November minutes. Thus, the silence is that folks are reviewing them, which is great. So I'll give us a couple minutes to review those. Somebody send me a smoke signal when we're ready for the motion. All right. Are we prepared to offer a motion to approve the November minutes?
Hey there, good morning. I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Can I second it? I make a.
I
second
sure hope you can.
that.
Um, let me ask, Ms. Webson, are you here with us? I know you're here, but I mean, are you, here in this moment with us? Okay, there's just three of the, committee members here this morning, and although it represents, I believe it represents quorum, we are not having the input we need, I think, to take the minutes forward. So I'm gonna request that we move the minutes to January and approve November and December at the same time. This next item is the performance management metrics. So I'm gonna prepare to do this for information only rather than get it approved, because it can also be approved in January. It's not throwing our timeline off at all to approve it later. But we will want to take this presentation to HSAC next week to alert HSAC of the work that the committee has done. So we will go ahead and present this information to you in its more final state. Last month, and I'm gonna prepare to share my screen. Okay. Last month, we presented the information on sort of a background on this committee, what the committee is chartered to accomplish on an annual basis. And we looked at a lot of different components of the responsibilities of the committee, and we plotted out a annual calendar. At that time, we also alerted that we would have the Performance Management Committee as well as, I'm sorry, Ricky, are you writing to me? Okay. At that time, we alerted you to some community conversations that would be held between the Performance Management Committee and the providers to develop consensus on 2025 performance measures. So we did some really good work across 4 office hour sessions. And I want to just go over the results of that with the committee today. Keep in mind the committee was present for most or all of the office hour sessions, as well as a variety of providers at each one. So today we're going to go over that. Andrea, I think you have a question.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. I did just want the committee to be aware that because we are expanding the evaluation metrics to other project types and kind of thinking through intentionally some of the more complicated scoring aspects, like those just the points for this. I cannot confirm with 100% confidence that we would be able to turn around the revised tool in only February. I think that was the original goal, to release the revised tool in February. So I do think that voting on this in January might delay the launch into March. I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Thank you. We may be able to take a different approach and just do an email vote and reach out to the committee members to alert them. That might help speed it along. So thank you, Andrew. Okay, so we again are gonna talk about the results of the, work that was done with the office hour session. So, a little bit of the background, from the governance charter, this committee is responsible for, reviewing and setting the standards for the delivery of services and related data management. Also the implementation of COC policies and procedures, and provides guidance to HSAC around funding recommendations. So we know that we do this work all year through various things, semi-annual evaluations. This is the committee that will support reallocations when necessary, to issue performance improvement plans when necessary. But more importantly, it's this committee's job to consult with the recipients, which are the providers, to make sure that there's consensus developed on annual goals. We learned in this series of conversations that that is a really big and important step to really being transparent, to really having some robust discussion around what is realistic for our continuum. And so it was a great few sessions. The first one was held on Friday, November 15th, at which we discussed permanent supportive housing projects. The second was held Wednesday, November 20th, and we discussed street outreach and emergency shelter. The third session was Friday, November 22nd. We discussed rapid rehousing. And on December 3rd, we had a complete overview and finalized consensus. So this work was done across 4 office hour sessions. Most of you here in the room now attended at least one or more of those meetings. So I want to talk to you about what the results were, but I also want to point out that in the past, we focused on COC funded projects. And in particular, we focused on rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing. And in this round, we are expanding performance to include emergency shelter and street outreach, non-RRH and PSH related. So we're adding in additional performance goals for our continuum. And this will be ongoing each year. We will add in where we need projects that are not currently represented. So the first, again, the goal is to develop consensus. I think I just mentioned all of this. We did focus on projects rather than agencies. So we didn't talk specifically about particular agencies unless that agency brought up a point or a question. This was also a living document. It started at a particular place, and over the 4 sessions, we built it into kind of a final version of itself. And the final answers are a combination of what funding sources expect, meaning what does HUD expect or ESG expect or whoever. What are the past goals? What did we do before? What would be helpful to our COC? And what is possible in HMIS and other data sources. So the answers that you're going to see are some combination of all of those things. So this is kind of the final summary version. The slides that follow this will point out specifically what these things mean. So I'll just review each of the measures and then we'll go into the specifics. Note that this also has a TH column, which is transitional. Yes, sorry.
I just want to let you know that you're not actually sharing anything with anyone.
Oh,
You
my
think you
gosh.
can see something.
My screen says I'm sharing and I'm in like presentation mode. I am so sorry. Give me
Not
1 second. Let me figure out my life over here. Let me try it again. Okay, how about now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, everybody. So let's try this again.
You can do it from current slide.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So this is the slide I was referencing, which none of you could see. It's an improved version of the one where we started. And we'll go through those right now. So for street outreach programs, out of everyone that they come in contact with, we want 60% of those people to be engaged. So that means if they talk to 100 people, we want at least 60% of those, or 60 of those people to be in dialogue with and not refusing services from street outreach. We also want 50% of those engaged to exit to positive housing destinations. This has a different definition than other programs. So, for example, when street outreach exits you positively, that could be into emergency shelter. Whereas if a shelter exits you positively, it is not into another shelter, right? So 50% of engaged will exit to positive housing. 40% of engaged will acquire or increase income from start to exit. 40% will exit street outreach with at least one source of health insurance. 20% of leavers will exit with at least one source of non-cash benefit. And the average length of time for people exiting street outreach leavers will be less than or equal to 60 days. Anyone have any questions on these street outreach metrics? Yes, Tracy.
Yes, just trying to understand how that would be actually captured in data in terms of um, the particular metric around income and exit destination. Would the organizations or primary organizations provide that type of, are they tracking those individuals? Because I know with street outreach, this is more of a transient population that may have different locations from, point of initial contact. So how would that be actually tracked?
Good question. So, street outreach has an HMIS project, and it runs the way other projects do. So they update what happens in street outreach in the form of all of these measures. And we will work with them. This is a kind of an expanded version of measures for them. So we can, for example, pull a report today, and we actually did in this process, pull a report for street outreach. And we could tell their engagement. We could tell how many were exiting the positive destinations. We could tell how many got income from non-cash benefits in the specific reports. So all of the metrics are set up in HMIS to be captured. There may be some work done through TA with street outreach just to make sure that data timeliness and quality and accuracy and data entry are all happening the way it needs to happen. But HMIS tracks all of these measures.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions on street outreach? Okay. For emergency shelter, this is probably the biggest change where this project represents the place where kind of most of the changes in the conversations happened. So I will go over each of these, and of course, and invite questions. So utilization, HUD requires or encourages us through our annual COC application to explain and develop a plan for any project type that is not reporting at least 85% utilization. So they would want to know why beds are going unfilled. So we have built this into our scorecard just so that we can be mindful with providers and also transparent about the process so that, you know, everybody's informed of how we want this to go. So, we really didn't have a big problem this year. I believe the shelters performed at 84.36% or something like that. So it's very close. But because it was less than 35, we did have to explain and develop a plan for how we were going to accomplish that. And part of that was Ricky, can you jump in? Part of that was around some unused beds and did that have to do with the can you remind me why we were able to isolate why we got just below 85%, but I cannot recall in this moment.
Yeah, so, great question. HUD does not, parcel out whether your COC is operating a, family shelter or, an adults-only shelter. So they, just see it as the project type itself called emergency shelter. So, because we did have one shelter with high utilization, our family shelter, you know, maximized every bed and room that they had. That helped our numbers get to that 84%. Unfortunately, our adult shelter is performing way below 85% utilization. And so for future scoring, we are holding our emergency shelter projects to have utilization or occupancy at 85% or above, which is the baseline standard for HUD.
And Andrea, while you're here, just to clarify, this metric deals with the housing inventory count for the particular project, right? And what you have in inventory is what is being judged against. Is that right?
Yeah, year-round inventory. So we won't get thrown off if it happens to be cold on pit night and, you know, something like those beds don't need to be taken into consideration.
Okay. And then, so for example, and you know, this is not to call out any particular shelter, but it is to just be clear, and be an acknowledgement. You know, pre-COVID, and I think currently in our housing inventory, UMD has a larger number of beds than they are actually using on a nightly basis in the shelter. And there may be some adjustment that needs to happen in our housing inventory count when UMD alerts us that they have reached the maximum number of beds that they can possibly serve. So we're gonna have to do some alignment, I think, in our counts. And we also have to be mindful, you know, if we're losing bids, what are the consequences of that in regard to our scoring? So I just want to point that out. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions about that.
Anthony, I would just add that beds can be lost, quote unquote, that when users are not able to maintain their license in HMIS, so, as well as if the data is not being entered, right? So we'll work with folks to try to maintain that status as much as possible.
Perfect. Thank you, Andrea. So that's our goal for utilization, 85%. For exit destinations, this is a big change. In the past, we have looked at shelters separately, whether they were family or single. So, the family shelters had a 65% exit rate that was the goal of 65% exits to positive housing destinations, while the single shelter had a 35% rate. So the single shelter was almost always able to meet its goal, but the family shelter struggled because of the sheer um the limits on how many beds we have, the number of barriers that um uh are coming in families that are coming into the shelter. So we're seeing higher barrier families. We're seeing families with much more complex issues, such as rent arrears or evictions or other things that make it difficult for them to exit shelter more quickly. And so because of that, families have not been achieving 65% for some time. So because singles were at about meeting their goal and families weren't, and HUD only looks at shelter as one unit, not family versus singles, we took the average of those two metrics, the 35 and the 65, and came up with 50%. So we're gonna look at shelter exits as one goal of 50%. This allows both families and singles to be able to aspire to something that is more realistic. And hopefully will support our continuum and drive this number up in future years. All right. Length of stay was also separate between singles and families. That we did not change. We know that families are inherently harder to serve and harder to place into housing. So we did leave this at less than or equal to 90 days. And for singles, less than or equal to 60 days. And again, the idea is that within 60 or within 90 days, the conditions will be favorable enough in the external environment for people to leave and acquire housing. And work will be done with them while they're in these environments to achieve that. We may not achieve it. There may be some challenges, but the goals are being set to, and the monitoring will be set to allow us to kind of try some interventions and some TA and be responsive to the environment. For total income, we want 60% of households maintaining or increasing income from at least one source from start to exit. So while they're in the project, they should either maintain income from at least one source or increase it. Health insurance, the same, 60%, at least one source of health insurance, and non-cash benefits, at least 60%. The idea is that with the number of barriers that people are having and with the challenge of homelessness, inherently, these goals should have no problem being met. In fact, most of them already are. Like in years past, these numbers are not stretches to helping families. So any questions on emergency shelter? Okay. So for rapid rehousing and the one that follows permanent supportive housing, we were able to have a lot of rich discussion on these, but not a lot changed in them. And these were the ones that if you're running any type of rapid rehousing or permanent supportive housing project, you've already been used to our semi-annual evaluations and the scorecards and things like that. So I will go over these. Just so that if there's discussion necessary, we can have it. But our exit destinations, In rapid rehousing, we want 80% of people in rapid rehousing exiting to positive housing destinations. We want the length of time between the project start and housing move-in to be less than 60 days or equal to 60 days. We want 80% of people in rapid rehousing to maintain or increase income from at least one source. 75% should exit with at least one source of health insurance. 60% should exit with at least one source of non-cash benefit. That would be food stamps or some other non-cash benefit. And then there are a few other things that we've incorporated into this process that was already on the scorecard. So we're just combining this process with the scorecard so that we're all looking at a comprehensive picture. So on the scorecard, we look at project efficiency, and points are awarded for the 3 areas under project efficiency that you see here. So when 95% of units or more are utilized, when the average exit cost is less than or equal to 105% of the average cost, and when a project spends 95% of its funds within the performance period, that is how you score the maximum on the scorecard. Now, obviously, not all projects will be 95% utilized or spend less than or equal to 105%, but the points are then calculated based on how up or down you are from those metrics. So, that is our consensus for rapid rehousing for 2025. Are there any questions on RRH? Okay. And our last project type that we looked at was permanent supportive housing. And for utilization, it should be 95%.
Anthony,
Yes, I'm sorry.
we increased utilization to 96 and exit destinations were 95, right?
Oh, I have them
Did we
switched?
swap that? I think so.
Okay. I will change that after just to make sure.
Okay.
But keep Ricky's comments in mind. I may have inversed these, so, but right now we'll go with it as it is. If I inverse them, I'll change them after this, call. So for utilization, 95% units occupied on pit nights and total units.
Anthony,
What that means, yes.
I stand corrected. Your slide is correct.
Okay, thank you. And what this means is, HUD looks at utilization in a couple of ways. So the scorecard, if you all are used to running APRs, there's a table in the APR where, and I can't remember the table number, but it's the pit night. It charts 4 pit nights, like 1 per quarter. So you have 4 entries of this is your utilization on this particular night in January and April and June or whatever. And then we take that, we add those 4 numbers up and divide it by 4 to get your average utilization. And then we look at the total number of units you have. So that is how we get that number. The scorecard explains that, and those of you that have done the self evaluation with the scorecard, easy breezy. For exit destinations, it's 96% of individuals exiting to positive housing destinations. So Ricky, I'm gonna ask you to talk about that, because this can be confusing if you're in a permanent supportive housing program, right? The assumption can be that that is your permanent destination. So I want to invite you just to talk a little bit about how that shows up here.
Yeah, thank you, and apologies for the confusion earlier. So with exit destinations, the 96% is a HUD benchmark that Anthony and I discovered when we were working on the consolidated application a couple months ago. And in recent years, the continuum is probably familiar with the term move on or graduating from programs or moving up. HUD has emphasized that permanent supportive housing projects may not have to be, someone's final step in their journey to housing stabilization. That permanent supportive housing projects should work with their participants to get them connected to the supportive services that they will need, connect them to another rental subsidy that may be available in the community. That could be a public housing unit, that could be something maybe through the targeting program with the Department of Health and Human Services. But the purpose is to move people through permanent supportive housing so that there's room for new folks to come in and stabilize, and hopefully they'll be able to move on too. So when HUD has this super high expectation for exits to positive housing destinations, they're saying, hey, when somebody leaves your program, they should be moving on to another permanent situation. And hopefully we'll have those supports in place and that rental subsidy in place. Is that helpful, Anthony?
Yeah, thank you. And again, you'll notice that a lot of the measures across the project types are similar or the same. So total income, in this case for PSH, 75% of participants will gain or increase income. 60% will gain or increase health insurance from at least one source. 75% will exit with at least one source of non-cash benefits. And then project efficiency is looked at for the most part in the same way as it is in rapid rehousing. And again, for project efficiency, we really do a lot of work on this because when we talk about what is the average cost, that is the average cost from within our system based on all of the projects of related type. So for example, when we send out a scorecard and it has that denominator of 10,000 or 13,000 or whatever you all are used to seeing as an average cost, that is because of all the RRH programs in our continuum that are Durham COC. That is the average cost that has been determined. So we're really judging against ourselves on average costs. So I want to point that out. This means that if one project is doing an RRH program and spending 5,000 average cost and somebody else is spending 15,000 average cost, then the denominator is going to be, 10,000 or some version of that. And then your points will go up or down based on that average, with the goal of trying to bring some efficiency to the system and be able to serve as many households as we can, as cost effectively as we can. So, any questions on PSH?
I guess I'm just curious about how many of these measures are measures that HUD is using to score our COC, and how many of these are for own measurement and improvement.
Yes, thank you, Chris. So most of them are our own measurements and improvement. There are a few that are HUD specific. For example, utilization is HUD specific. Exit destinations are HUD specific. And well, all of these are HUD specific measures. But they give us guideposts for like utilization, exit destinations, and things like that. The others are how we judge against ourselves, and I think Andrea's also. Andrea, I'm sorry, your chat. Can you say more?
Oh, I just am agreeing with you, Anthony. How does making sure that we're asking about health insurance and non-cash benefits,
Mhm.
although the other measures here are the ones that are more directly scored in competition.
And these things help us, Chris, guide and work with our agencies to ensure that we are providing the comprehensive services that we say we are. So, we look at what agencies have done in the past. And if needed, we will boost this goal a little bit, because we're rocking and rolling and things are moving. But really, Andrea has to remind me all the time that we judge against ourselves. HUD has a few things that they look for, and we have a few things that we have to report out on and explain and even plan for. But for the most part, we get to develop consensus in our continuum, which was part of the process that we just went through.
Absolutely. Anthony, is that true for the unspent funds? I think maybe on the financial side, they just really want you to spend all the money.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they really do. We use it though as a tool for making sure that it validates sort of the capacity of the agency to spend down their money within the reasonable time frame and within the project period and things like that. And we also use it as a marker, and we look at it a few times a year. We actually have done that a couple of times this year in this committee. We've looked at unspent funds. I think in January we'll have a new report for you based on the current quarter of what that looks like. But we're always looking at that and working with the projects to determine additional ways to help a project spend down when necessary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And Chris, I'm not familiar with your name. Can you tell me where you're from in the continuum?
Yeah, I'm in Durham County. I am an organizer with the National Union of the Homeless.
Excellent.
Just trying to understand the systems that homeless folks are moving through.
Excellent. Well, welcome to Durham COC. We hope that we have an opportunity to chat with you more.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions on any of the information I presented? So we've talked about the basically community conversations we had between the Performance Management Committee and providers. We just explained all of the different performance measurements that we will be looking at in 2025 and how we will be developing our scorecard or enhancing our scorecard. We are expanding into emergency shelter and street outreach evaluations as well. And in the coming years, we'll be adding even more project types. So hopefully, you all feel good about this. I hope that most of you participated on our call, so I hope this is the accurate reflection of what we talked about that you hoped it would be. And then I do know that we have added another committee member, Reverend Vaughn. I see that you have joined us, and I know that you were part of some of those conversations as well. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment and ask the committee members. We have Tracy, Vega, Renee, and Shantae. If yes, Ricky, if we would go back to our agenda where Reverend Vaughn, we did not approve the minutes. Shantae drafted them. I think maybe Vega was away from her computer at the time. So I want to invite us, since we have a good quorum now, to go back and consider approving the November minutes as well as approving these metrics from this discussion today. So, and I hate to do this, but I'm gonna do it. I want to ask the committee members just to come on camera for a second, just to see if we can get through through these two approvals. And then if you all tell me, no, let's wait till January, we can do that. But I think Andrea made a good point that the longer we wait to approve the performance management metrics, the more difficult it will be to honor the timeline that we have set out for next year. So I want to invite us again to consider approving the minutes, November minutes. So can we entertain a motion again to approve the November minutes? I think Tracy, you made the original motion, right?
Yes, that was for, the November minutes that you sent out via email on yesterday.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna hold that motion in place and ask for a second again.
Second, this is Renee Vaughn.
Thank you, Reverend Vaughn. And then if you are affirming, please put yes in the chat. For the committee members, put yes in the chat. Thank you so much. And then I want to invite us, and I have a couple of announcements. Thank you, Mia. I see you have a couple of announcements. And Malcolm, let me ask, would you go back and review the chat, just make sure we're not missing anything? For the performance metrics that we just discussed in the presentation. Again, this was a collaboration between performance management committee members. I think all of our committee members here that you see were a part of one or more of those discussions with the providers. So I want to invite a motion for us to go ahead and approve our metrics as presented in this presentation for 2025.
Anthony, may I ask a question before we get to the vote? Given that we're going towards, excuse me, a 2-year grant cycle, at any time during that 2-year cycle, are we approving this based on that 2-year grant cycle, or is there going to be any room for us to be able to reevaluate whether any of the metrics based on those projects need to be adjusted or modified in any way? I'm just asking for clarification.
Outstanding question, and I'm really glad you said it because it's important for the providers. These are annual metrics, and we will have to do this. So I'm gonna real quick, just to share my screen again, Tracy, if you remember when we talked about this before and we shared that, can you all still see this or can you see it again? Okay, so the next slide, remember when we did this, the plotted out the whole year of the activities? If you look at the bottom, we have the 2026 scorecard revision starting next November. So we'll do a process similar to this again, except that what we're voting on now, if we're successful, the first semi-annual performance will be in February, and the second one will be around August. And any performance improvement plans and all of that stuff will happen kind of in the second quarter of next year, so that we are actively working these goals. I hope I stopped sharing my screen. I think I did. Okay. So that we're actively working these goals. So to answer your question, while we're in a 2-year NOFO, the goals are annual. Because it may be that we are meeting a goal and can stretch ourselves more, or it may be that we're finding it hard to meet a goal and we need to make some other adjustments or implement some other interventions.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, can we entertain a motion to approve the performance metrics for 2025?
So moved, Mr. Chair. Do I need to restate it?
No, it's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vega, I'd like to second that, please.
Thank you, Vega. Affirm, please vote yes in the chat. Perfect. Thank you all so much. We did it. We got it approved. I really want to thank you all. We do have that was the end of our official agenda, but there are some announcements. Mia, so that people can see your lovely face, if you're willing, I want to give you the chance to make the announcement yourself. Would you mind coming on to do that? Or we can hear your voice, either way.
Hello, everybody. Can you see me? I don't know if you guys can see me.
Now we can, yeah.
Okay, good. So I just had wanted to invite everyone to our unsheltered training. I'll drop the link in the chat, and I think that this can really help everyone in terms of learning more about the data of engagement and why it's so important when collecting reporting information. So I'm just going to drop that in the chat.
Thank you so much. So any of the providers that are interested in attending, we strongly encourage you to do that. Oh, Sally, I think you have a question. I hope you haven't been waiting a long time. I couldn't see the hand.
Oh,
Thank
no. I just wondered, I had in the context of performance measures and scorecards for homeless services agencies at the last HSAC executive committee, I proposed some additional performance measures related to the homeless system, and I just wondered what would be the process to try to get those approved.
Yep. So I would say, Sally, for this particular, and I'm happy to chat with you after just to make sure, or we have some time now, actually. I can't remember if you were thinking
Answer the
different
phone.
project types.
Remember,
or
call you back because I'm in the meeting.
different,
It don't have nothing to do with Jalen, does it?
can you please mute? Okay, got it. Refresh my memory, are we talking measures that we've discussed here or project types that are not represented here?
We discussed, I can put them in the chat. It would be measures that have to do with exits to housing and the type of housing that people are moving into that is reflective of what is available in our community. So it's reflective of housing choice vouchers, public housing units and properties funded by the housing bond. So it's more sort of measures about sort of other aspects, but I think it's coming from, it would be two different sources. One is
Yeah.
HMIS and one is community development.
Yes, I think at least for the foreseeable future, those will be separate, but it doesn't mean we have to treat them separately. So in other words, these measures will be these measures, right? Based on the performance of the
Right,
CDC,
yeah.
right? But then we will supplement that with the information you're talking about as we move on. So we can be having those discussions together. But
Okay.
I don't want to muddy that water.
No,
right
no,
now
no, no,
because-
no. Yeah, no, it's a separate thing. I just want to know, is there a process? Will the performance management committee take that up sort of soon about adding these other measures?
I don't know that the other measures will be part of this committee. That's not sort of how it's chartered.
Okay.
But it's not that what you're asking is not reasonable. I mean, in terms of understanding the information and knowing it and making it publicly available in these meetings. So I think we can just work together to figure out the best way to do that, where folks feel that, the information is transparent and all of that. But yes, I think it should be a part of these meetings, for sure. All right. I want to just point out also that I had the chance to attend. This is completely this is announcements completely kind of unrelated to committee work, but Life Skills, one of our providers in the area, had their annual Jingle Jam last week. It was really fun and really good, and they know how to throw a good party. It was the biggest charcuterie table I've ever seen in my life. And some fantastic DJ that back in my club days, I'd have really had a better time. So we have some other organizations that have events coming up that I know about, and I want to call them out. NCCH, I'm sorry, for the first one, I think is Housing for New Hope is having a holiday event gathering. I'm not sure if they're sold out. Shantae, can you say more about it since you're here? Like, I hope it hasn't passed. I'm trying to give a shameless plug for the event.
Yes, we have a holiday gathering that's tomorrow for our staff and board members.
I thought you all were having some kind of gala or some kind of that's not you? Okay, if whoever is having a gala, if you're on here, please let me know. I do know that NCCEH is having its annual holiday celebration. Jeffrey, are you here? I know I'm not supposed to ask you to talk about this, Jeffrey, but I'm sorry in advance. Can you say a little bit about when it is? I'm the one that called it out, Jeffrey. I'm sorry.
Okay, sure. I gotta remember the exact date. Actually in this month. Give me just a second, Anthony. I'll come back in just a second and be able to give you some greater details about it.
Okay. I want to say the NCCEH, it's like a Home for the Holidays event. I think it's December 20th. And they have some silent auctions and things like that if you all want to support that, our friends at NCCEH. And also, Shantae, sorry, it wasn't you, it was Tasha Melvin, and I'm surprised Tasha didn't come on camera and get me straight. It is Families Moving Forward that is having an event. I believe it's tonight. Oh, thank you, Tasha. Tonight at 6 p.m. and it's their annual Chefs for Change. Tasha, do you want to say any more about that?
Sure, I'm happy to. I will not come on camera because I'm waiting to get dressed later on tonight. So
Okay.
I'm gonna do that to myself.
So no behind the scenes looks.
That's right. No. Everyone that walks in my office, I say no judgment. I'm listening though.
All right.
So you all, we have our annual Chefs for Change Gala. This is the biggest fundraising event that we have for the organization. We are looking to raise over $50,000 tonight. Given the need for families entering the homeless services system. We have launched our silent auction. I have already put in my bid for the Nutcracker. So if you want to try to compete against me, please do. I hope to win those tickets, but we have a silent auction. We also have a live auction that will go live tonight around 7 o'clock. So check us out. I'll put the link in the comments.
Thank you so much. And is any part of your silent auction online? Like, can we see any of it if we're not able to go tonight?
Yes, you can click the link.
Perfect.
And it should load. If it doesn't, let me know and I can send it out to you directly.
Okay. So thank you so much. We got some good stuff happening for the holidays. This is our last meeting before the new year. I am happily going to be out of the office between December 19th and January 2nd. And so my colleagues, Ricky and Malcolm, will be on standby if anybody needs anything in the office that you would typically contact me for. So that's it. I want to wish everybody a happy holidays.
Anthony?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have the information. You're
Okay.
right. It is the 20th. It's from 7 to 10, and it's at the Royal, which is 3801 Hillsborough Street in Raleigh. And the keynote speaker is William Cerullo, and we have a guest presenter who's Diane Nyland. And there's a silent auction for that as well. That night, the information is on the website, and there's also a link for bidding for that as well.
Perfect.
Tickets are $50.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Just before I go, and I do want to invite other thoughts or comments before we close out, but I don't want to forget, thank you, Ricky, for the plug. The annual vigil is happening soon. It is on Saturday, December 21st at 6 p.m. At the Central Park Pavilion. And I do have a flyer, but unfortunately I cannot put it in here, but I will send it out to the COC today so everybody will get it. I do hope those of you that are in town and able will join us. I know it's a Saturday night. I know it's going to be cold, and I know that, you know, it's not during work hours, but hopefully you will be a part of this. We've been tracking those we lost to homelessness, or maybe as a direct or indirect result of homelessness over the year, and we're up to 28 names. And so we do want to have you know, a remembrance to honor the lives of those that we have been serving. There will be refreshments, and it's if you haven't been to the vigil, it's typically a really nice and not too long remembrance of our neighbors. So that is, again, Saturday, December 21st, 6 p.m. at Central Park Pavilion. Anybody else have any final thoughts or comments or parting words?
Anthony, I just want to thank you for your hard work, stepping in and always bringing us forward. It takes a lot of commitment and dedication on your part, both in the office and everything else that you do outside. So we do appreciate you. We appreciate all the committee members for giving of your time throughout the year.
Yeah.
So
Thank you, Reverend Vaughn. I appreciate you.
Season.
And hi, Anthony. Sorry, this is Tiara with Families Moving Forward. I just wanted to take a moment just to introduce myself. I am the new Director of Programs and Residential Services here at Families Moving Forward. Not new to the Durham community and working with those experiencing homelessness, but glad to be back here at Families Moving Forward. So hello, everyone.
Tiara, thank you for doing that. You know, we often take for granted that we know everybody on the call, and not until we see a different name. And because I'm already familiar with you a little bit, I didn't even think that other people might not be. So
no
thank
worries.
you for doing that. Welcome to Families Moving Forward. You are in great hands at Families Moving Forward, and I know that you know, they're blessed to have you as well.
Yes, thank you, Anthony.
Any other thoughts? All right. Well, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate, just happy celebrations this season. And I look forward to talking to you all very soon. Okay?
Anthony.
Yes.
You need a motion to adjourn.
Oh, I do? All right. Thank you, Malcolm. I don't think that'll be hard though. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Shante.
I'll second it.
Thank you. The meeting has adjourned at 11:08. Have a happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye.